The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 2, Section 2, Jnana Yoga, Chapter 4, Maya and the Illusion of the Conception of God. Lecture delivered in London, 20th October 1896. We have seen how the idea of Maya, which forms as it were one of the basic doctrine of the Advait Vedanta, is in its gem found even in the Samhitas, and that is reality. All the ideas which are developed in the Upanishad are to be found already in the Samhitas in some form or other. Most of you are by this time familiar with the idea of Maya and know that it is sometimes erroneously explained as illusion. So that when the universe is said to be Maya, that also has to be explained as being illusion. The translation of the word is neither happy nor correct. Maya is not a theory, it is simply a statement of fact about the universe as it exists. And to understand Maya, we must go back to the Samhitas and begin with the conception in the gem. We have seen how the idea of the Devas came. At the same time, we know that these Devas were at first only powerful beings, nothing more. Most of you are horrified when reading the old scriptures, whether of Greeks, the Hebrews, the Persians, and the others, of to find that the ancient god did things which to us were very repugnant. But when we read these books, we entirely forget that we are the person of the 19th century and these gods were been existing thousands of years ago. We also forget that the people who worship these gods found nothing incongruous in their character, found nothing to frighten them because they were very much like themselves. I may also remark that is the one great lesson we have to learn throughout our lives. In judging others, we always judge them by our own ideas. That is not as it should be. Someone must be judged according to his own ideas and not by that of other or anyone else. In our dealings with our fellow beings, we constantly labor under this mistake, and I am of opinion that the vast majority of our quarrels with one another arise simply from this one cause that we are always trying to judge others gods by our own, others ideas, ideas by ideas, ideas by our ideas, and others motives by our motives. Under certain circumstances, I might do a certain thing, and when I see another person taking the same course, I think he has also the same motive actuating him, like dreaming that although the fact or effect may be the same, yet many other causes may produce the same thing. We may have performed the action with quite a different motive from that which impelled me to do it. So, in judging of the ancient religions, we must not take standpoint to which we incline, but must put ourselves into the position of thoughts and life of those early times. The idea of the cruel and ruthless Jehovah in the Old Testament has frightened many. But why? What right have they to assume that the Jehovah of the ancient Jews must represent the conventional idea of the God of the present day? And at the same time, we must not forget that there will come men after us who will laugh at our ideas of religion and God in the same way that we laugh at those of the ancients. Yet, through all these various conceptions run the golden thread of unity. It is the purpose of the Vedanta to discover this thread. I am the thread that runs through all the various ideas, each one of which is like a pearl. Same say the Lord Krishna, and it is the duty of Vedanta to establish this connection or connecting thread, however incongruous or disgusting may seem this idea when judged according to the conception of today. This idea, in the setting of the past time, were harmonious and not more hideous than our present ideas. It is only when we try to take them out of their setting and apply to our own present circumstances that the hideousness become obvious. For the old surrounding are death and gone, just as the ancient Jewish has developed into the keen, modern sharp Jew, and ancient Aryan into the intellectual Hindu. Similarly, Jehovah has grown and the Devas have grown. The great mistake is in recognizing the evolution of the worshippers. While we do not uh, acknowledge the evolution of the worshipped, he is not credited with the advance that his devotees have made. That is to say, you and I, as representing ideas, have grown. These gods also are representing ideas, have grown. This may seem somewhat curious to you that God can grow. He cannot. He is unchangeable. In the same sense, the real man never grows, but the man's idea of God are constantly changing and expanding. We shall see later on how the real man behind each one of these human manifestation is immovable, unchangeable, pure, and always perfect. And in the same way, the idea that we form the God is a mere manifestation our manifestation our own creation. Behind that is a real God who never changes, the every pure, the immutable, but the manifestation is always changing, revealing the reality behind more and more. When it reveals more of the fact behind, it is called as progression. When it hides more of the fact behind, it is called as retrogression. Thus, as we grow, so the gods grow. From the ordinary point of view, just as we reveal ourselves as we evolve, so the gods reveal themselves. We shall now be in position to understand the theory of Maya. In all religions of the world, the one question they propose to discuss is this: why is there disharmony in the universe? Why is there this evil in the universe? We do not find this question in the very inception of primitive religious ideas because the world did not appear incongruous to the primitive man. Circumstances were not in harmonium for him. There was no clash of opinions to him. There was no antagonism of good and evil. There was mere a feeling of his own heart of something which said yeah and something which said nah. The primitive man was a man of impulse. He did what occurred to him and tried to bring out through his muscles whatever thought came into the mind. And he never stopped to judge and seldom tried to check his impulses. So, with the god, they were all creatures of impulse. Indra comes and shatters the forces of the demons. Jehovah is pleased with one person and displeased with another. For what reason, no one knows or asks. The habit of inquiry had not then arisen, and whenever he did was regarded as right. There was no idea of good or evil. The Devas did may wicked things in our sense of the word again and again. Indra, the other gods, committed very wicked deeds, but to worship to the worshipper of Indra, the idea of wickedness and the evil did not occur, so they did not question them. With the advance of the ethical ideas came the fight. There across a certain sense in men, called in different languages and nations by different names. Call it the voice of God or the result of past education or whatever else you like, but the effect was this, that it had a checking proper upon the natural impulses of men. There is one impulse in our mind which says do. Behind it rises another voice which say do not. There is one set of ideas in our mind which is always struggling to get outside through the channels of the senses, and behind that, although it may be thin and weak, there is an infinite small voice which says, do not go outside. The two beautiful Sanskrit words For this phenomena pra- pra- are pravritti. The two beautiful Sanskrit words for this phenomena are pravritti and nivritti, circling forward and circling inward. It is the circling forward which usually governs our action. Religion begins with the circling inward. Religion begins with this do not. Spirituality begins with this do not. When the do not is not there, religion has not begun. Then this do not cause or came, causing men's ideas to grow, despite the fighting God which they had worshipped. The little love awoke his in the heart of mankind. It was very small indeed, and even now it is not much greater. It was at first confined to a tribe, embracing perhaps members of the same tribe. These gods loved their tribe, and each god was a tribal god, the protector of that tribe. And sometimes the member of the tribe would think of themselves as the descendant of their gods, just as the clans in different nations think that they are common descendants of a man who was the founder of that clan. There were in ancient times and are even now some people who claim to be descendant not only of the tribal god but also of sun and moon. You read in the ancient Sanskrit books of the great heroic emperor of the solar and the lunar dynasty. They were first worshipped as sun and moon and gradually came to think of themselves as a descendant of god Surya and of moon, and so forth. So, when the tribe's idea began to grow, there came a little love, some slight idea of duty towards each other, a little social organization. Then, naturally, the idea came, how can we live together without bearing and forbearing? How can one man live with another without having some time or other to check his impulse, to restrain himself, to forbear from doing things which his mind would prompt him to do? It is impossible. Thus comes the idea of restraint. The whole social fabrics is based upon the idea of restraint, and we all know that the man or woman who has not learnt the great lesson of bearing and forbearing leads a most miserable life. Now, when these ideas of religion came, a glimpse of something higher, more ethical, dawned upon the intellectual or intellect of mankind. The old gods were found to be incongruous. This boisterous fighting, drinking, beef-eating god of ancient, whose delight was smell of burning flesh and libation of strong liquor. Sometimes Indra drank so much that he fell upon the ground and talked unintelligently. These gods could no longer be tolerated. The notion had arisen of inquiring into motives, and the gods had to come in for their share of inquiry. Reason for such and such action was demanded, and reason was wanting. Therefore, a man gave up these gods, or rather, they developed higher ideas concerning them. They took a survey, as it were, of all the actions and qualities of the gods and discarded those which they could not harmonize and keep those which they could understand and combine them, labeling them with one name, Deva, the god of gods. The god to be worshipped was no more a simple symbol of power. Something more was required than that. He was an ethical god. He loved mankind and did good to mankind, but the idea of good still remained. They increased the ethical significance and increased also his powers. He became the most ethical being in the universe as well as almost almighty. But all this patchwork would not do, as the explanation assumed greater proportions. The difficulty which is sought to solve did the same. Inequalities of the god increased in arithmetic progression. The difficulty and doubt increased in geometrical progression. The difficulty of Jehovah was very little beside the difficulty of God of the universe. And this question remains to the present day. Why under the reign of an almighty and all loving God of the universe should diabolical things be allowed to remain? Why so much more misery than happiness and much more wickedness than good? We may shut our eyes to all these things, but the fact still remains that this world is hideous world. At best, it is a hell of tentaculous. Here we are with strong impulses and stronger cravings for sense enjoyments, but cannot satisfy them. There rises a wave which expels or impels us forward in spite of our own will, and as soon as we move one step comes a blow. We are all doomed to live here like Tantasu. Ideas comes into our heads far beyond the limit of our sense ideas. But when we seek to express them, we cannot do so. On the other hand, we are crushed by the surging mass around us. Yes, if I give up all ideality and merely struggle through this world, my existence is that of a brutal, and I degenerate and degrade myself. Neither way is happiness. Unhappiness is the fate of those who are content to live in this world, born as they are. A thousand times greater misery is the fate or a fate of those who dare to stand forth for the truth and for higher things and who dare to ask something higher than mere brute existence here. These are facts, but there is no explanation. There cannot be any explanation, but the Vedanta shows the way out. You must bear in mind that I have to tell you the fact that will frighten you sometimes, but if you remember what I say, think of it and digest it, and it will be yours. It will raise you higher and make you capable of understanding and living in truth. Now it is a statement of fact that this world is a Tantasu hell, that we do not know anything about this universe, yet at the same time, we cannot say that we do not know. I cannot say that this chain exists when I think that I do not know it. It may be the entire delusion of my brain. I may be dreaming all the time. I may be dreaming that I am talking to you and that you are listening to me. No one can prove that it is not a dream. My brain itself may be a dream, and as to that, no one has ever seen his own brain. We all take it for granted. So it is with everything. My own body I take for granted. At the same time, I cannot say I do not know. This standing between knowledge and ignorance, this mystic twin, the mingling of truth and the falsehood, and where they meet, no one knows. We are walking in the midst of the dream, half sleeping, half waking, passing all our lives in the haze. This is the fate of every one of us. This is the fate of all sense knowledge. This is the fate of all philosophy, of all boosted science, of all boosted human knowledge. This is the universe. What can what you can matter, what you call matter, or spirit or mind or anything else you may like to call them, the fact remains the same. We cannot say that they are, we cannot say that they are not, we cannot say that they are one, we cannot say that they are many. This eternal play of light and darkness, indiscriminate, indistinguishable, inseparate, is always there. A fact at the same time not a fact, awake and at the same time asleep. This is a statement of facts, and this is what is called as Maya. We are born in this Maya, we live in it, we think in it, we dream in it, we are philosophers in it, we are spiritual men in it. Now, we are devils in this Maya, and we are gods in this Maya. Stretch your ideas as far as you can, make them higher and higher, call them infinite within this Maya. It cannot be otherwise. The whole of the human knowledge is the generalization of the Maya, trying to know it as it appears to be. This is the work of this is the work of Nama Rupa, name and form. Everything that has form, everything that calls up an idea in our mind or in your mind is within Maya. For everything that is bound by the law of time, space, and causation is within Maya. Let us go back a little to those early ideas of God and see what became of them. We perceive at once that the idea of some being who eternally loves us, eternally unselfish and almighty, ruling this universe could not satisfy. Where is the just, merciful God? Asked the philosopher. Does he not see millions and millions of his children perish in the form of man and animal? For who can live one moment here without killing others? Can you draw a breath without destroying thousands of lives? You live because millions die. Every moment of your life, every breath that you breathe is death of thousands. Every moment that you make a death of to millions. Every morsel that you eat is death to millions. Why should they die? There is an old sophism that they are very low existence. Supposing they are, which is questionable, for who knows whether the ant is greater than the man or the man than the ant? Who can prove one way or other? Apart from that question, even taking it for granted that these are very low beings, still, why should they die? If they are low, they have more reason to live. Why not? Because they live more in the senses. They feel pleasure and pain a thousandfold more than you and I can do. Which of us eat a dinner with the same gust of as a dog or a wolf? None, because our energies are not in the senses, they are in the intellect, in the spirit. But in animals, their whole soul is in the senses, and they become mad and enjoy things which we human beings never dream of, and the pain is commensurate with the pleasure. Pleasure and pain are meted out in equal measures. If the pleasure felt by the animal is so much keener than that felt by man, it follows that the animal's sense of pain is as keen, if not keener. Dying is intensified a thousandfold in animals, and yet we kill them without troubling ourselves about their misery. This is Maya, and if we suppose there is a personal God, like the human being, who made everything, these so called explanation and theories which try to prove that out of evil comes good are not sufficient. Let 20,000 good things come, but why should they come from evil? On that principle, I might cut the throat of others because I want the full pleasure of the five senses. That is no reason. Why should good come from evil? The question remains to be answered, and it cannot be answered. The philosophy of India was compelled to admit this. The Vedanta was and is the boldest system of religion. It stopped nowhere, and it had one addition advantage. There was no body of priests who sought to suppress and every man who tried to tell the truth. There was always absolute religious freedom. In India, the bondage of superstition in the social one is a social one. Here is a Western society is very free. Social matters in India are very strict, but religious opinion is free. In England, a man may dress any way he likes or eat what he likes. No one objects, but if he misses attending church, then Mr. Grundy is down on him. He has to conform first to what society says on religion, and then he may think of truth. In India, on the other hand, if a man dines with one who does not belong to his own caste, down comes society with all its terrible powers and crushes him then and there. If he want to dress a little different from the way in which his ancestor dressed ages ago, he is gone for. I have heard of men who was cast out by the society because he went several miles to see the first railway train. Well, we shall resume or presume that that was not true. But in religion, we find ethics, materialism, or materialistic Buddhist creeds, opinions, and speculations of every phase and variety, some of a most startling character, living side by side. Preachers of all sects go about teaching and getting adherents, and at the very gates of the temples of God. The Brahmins, to their credit be it said, allowed even the materialist to stand and give forth their opinion. Buddha died at the ripe old age. I remember a friend of mine, a great American scientist, who was found of reading his life. He did not like the death of Buddha because he was not crucified. What a false idea for a man to be great. He must be murderer or murdered. Such ideas never prevailed in India. This great Buddha traveled all over India denouncing her gods and even the God of the universe, and yet he lived to the good old age. For 80 years he lived and had converted half of the country. Then there were the Charvakas, and then there were the Charvakas who preached horrible things, the most rank, undisgusting or undiscussed materialism, such as the 19th century. They dared not open the preach. These Charvakas were allowed to preach from temple to temple, city to city, that religion was all nonsense and that it was priestcraft, that the Vedas were the words and writings of fools, rogues, and demons, and that there was neither God nor any eternal soul. If there was a soul, why did it not come back after that, drawn by the law of wife and child? Their idea was that if there was a soul, it must still love after death and want good things to eat and nice dress. Yet no one heard these Charokas. Thus, India has always had this magnificent idea of religious freedom, and you must remember that freedom is the first condition of growth. What you do not make free, what you do not make What you do not make free will never grow. The idea that you can make others grow and help their growth, that you can direct and guide them. Always retaining for yourself the freedom of the teacher is nonsense, a dangerous lie which has retarded the growth of millions and millions of human beings in the world. Let men have the light of liberty. That is the one and only condition of growth. We in India allow liberty in spiritual matter, and we have a tremendous spiritual power in religious thought even today. You grant the same liberty in social matter and so have the splendid social organization. We have not given any freedom to the expansion of the social matter, and ours is the cramped society. You have never given any freedom in religious matter, but with fire and sword have now enforced your belief, and the result is the religion is a stunted, degenerated growth in the European mind. In India, we have to take off the shackles from the society. In Europe, the chains must be taken from the feet of the spiritual progress. Then we will come a wonderful growth and development of men. If we discover that there is one unity running through all these developments, spiritual, moral, and social, we shall find that religion, in the fullest sense of the word, must come into society and into our everyday life. In the light of Vedanta, you will understand that all sciences are but manifestation of religion. And so, in everything that exist in the world. We see then and that through freedom of the science we were built, and in them we have two sets of opinion, the one or the materialistic and denouncing, and the other the positive and constructive. It is the most curious fact that in every society you find them. Supposing there is an evil in the society, you will find immediately one group rise up and denounce it in vindication or vindictive fashion, which sometimes degenerates into fanaticism. There are fanatics in every society, and women frequently join it in these outcries because of their impulsive nature. Every fanatic who gets up and denounces something can secure a following. It is very easy to break down. A maniac can break anything he likes, but it would be hard for him to build up anything. These fanatics may do some good according to their light, but much more harm. Because social institutions are not made in a day, and to change them means removing the cause. Suppose there is an evil, denouncing it will not remove it, but you must go to work at the root. First find out the cause, then remove it, and the effect will be removed also. Mere outcry will not produce any effect unless indeed it produces misfortune. There were others who had sympathy in their hearts and who understood the idea that we must go deep into the cause. These were the great saints. One fact you must remember, that all the great teachers of the world have declared that they came not to destroy but to fulfill. Many times this has not been understood, and their forbearance has been thought to be an unworthy compromise with existing popular opinion. Even now, you occasionally hear that these prophets and great teachers were rather cowards and dared not say and do what they thought was right. But that was not so. Fanatics little understand the looked upon the inhabitant of the Fanatics little understand the infinite power of love in the heart of these great sages who looked upon the inhabitant of the worlds as their children. They were the real fathers, the real God, filled with infinite sympathy and patience for everyone. They were ready to bear and forbear. They knew how human society should grow, and patiently, slowly, surely went on applying their remedies, not by denouncing and frightening people, but by gently and kindly leading them upward step by step. Such were the writers of the Upanishad. They knew full well how the old ideas of God were not reconcilable with the advanced ethical ideas of the time. They knew full well that what the ethics were preaching contained a good deal of truth, nay, great nuggets of truth. But at the same time, they understood that those who wished to serve the thread that bound the beads, who wanted to build a new society in the air, would entirely fail. We never build a new, we simply change the places. We cannot have anything new, we only change the position of things. The seeds grows into a tree patiently and gently. We must direct our energies towards the truth, the fulfill the truth that exists, not try to make new truth. Thus, instead of denouncing these old ideas of God as unfit for modern times, the ancient sages began to seek out the reality that was in them. The result was the Vedant philosophy, and out of the old deities, out of the monotheistic God, the ruler of the universe, they found at higher and higher ideas in what it called the impersonal absolute. They found oneness throughout the universe. He who sees in this world of manifoldedness, he who sees in this world of manifoldedness, that one running through all, that one running through all, in the world of death, he who finds that one infinite life, in the world of death, he who finds that one infinite life, and in this world of insentence and in this world of insentence and ignorance, he who finds that one light and knowledge unto him belongs eternal peace. Unto him belongs eternal peace. Unto none else, unto none else.